You are listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast with your friend, host, all-around good guy, and co-owner of Get It Cleaned, Paul Valverde. Now, on to the show.
Hello to all my successful business owners and entrepreneurs of New Jersey. Welcome to another episode of the New Jersey Business Podcast. Today, as special guest, we have Max Janoff, Managing Partner and Director of Sales of the Crystal Plaza, one of the finest wedding and event venues in the tri-state area. They are located in Livingston, New Jersey, and it is a pleasure, Max, to have you here with us today. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Max, so to get started, will you please share a little bit about yourself, perhaps where you're from, where you grew up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from right around here. We're based in Livingston, the town over Short Hills. That's where I grew up with my family. I went to high school in Morristown, so right around the corner as well. Went to college in upstate New York, so that's about as far away as I got. But always came back home to Jersey. Now I'm settled in Jersey City, actually, so not far from here.
So, Max, I understand the Crystal Plaza. It's a family business and has been in your family for 4 generations. Am I right?
Absolutely. 4 generations, 104 years.
Wow, 104 years. And can you tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up with your parents being involved in family business?
Yeah, it was really just for me, it was normal, but compared to a lot of my friends, it was a little bit more unique where, every day was, work. I mean, it was, my dad would come home late and I never understood why it was so late till I got into the business and, being in the hospitality world, work is at night, right? People don't get off work till, when they get off work, it's when they want to come in for tours for weddings and the events happen at night. But it was just a really wholesome experience seeing everyone working together. More than anything, it was my dad and my aunt who were really running the business together. And pretty much my whole life came around and was trying to be, involved in the business. And when it was time to really step up and be full time, it was an absolute no brainer to me because it was just what I saw my dad do. And it just seemed so exciting to me to be a part of specifically the hospitality world. I could never see myself sitting behind a desk. And in college, I tried a lot of different things to confirm that this was really where I wanted to be. But it was a no-brainer.
So at what age would you say it was kind of where you became more hands-on in the business?
So it's funny. I always go back and forth trying to figure out when it really started. Because when I was really young, even some of my chefs that have been here for a long time always made fun of me because I used to say I was a chef, right? I would go in and I would help cut the lemons. And there's always some great stories about me. We used to do these lemon wraps that was just thousands and thousands of wrapping lemons. When you squeeze the lemon, the seeds don't come out. It was like little, they would just throw me things to do. And to me, it was important back then. And it was, if they don't have me doing this, we can't execute a job. But to them, it was like, all right, let's let the boss's kid work. But really, it made me kind of into the person I am today because I see what it takes to execute an event. Now I see, okay, well, somebody actually has to wrap those lemons to do a job. And those types of little things go a long way in terms of executing a full event like we do today. So as little and minuscule as it might have seemed back then, it really made me I think the person I am today in the business and understanding the roles that it takes to execute, events on the scale that we do.
Do you have memories, or do you recall some of the first few events that you attended? Was it a wedding? Was it what type of event was it?
Whew. I don't remember all the specific events, that I first started, but I do remember the first event when I started full time, because it's a client that we do a lot of events for. And it was just, it meant a lot for me for that to be the first event, that it was, someone who we do events for every year and doing it in their backyards and them seeing me run it. It was kind of it felt like an actual transition to like, okay, Max is in the business now. And that one meant a lot to me.
What was like for you to work at a professional level with family members?
It's a really good question, and it was a tough dynamic at first when I first started in the business, and I was still living at home right after college. As much as I love work and I love my family, there was a point where I wanted to go home and not talk about work. And when you sit in the office with your dad all day, and then you go home and it's still work, it just felt like it was hard to get away from it. So we actually, funny enough, we came up with like code words where, like, if we were talking about business too much, or if my mom heard us talking about business too much, she would say a word and we would kind of just like, okay, let's talk about football for a second or something, because it is a tough dynamic. But it really, I think moving out of the house also helped me. Obviously, eventually I got old enough that I was moving out of the home, and that made it so whenever time I saw my dad, I was excited to talk about work and see him, of course, right? But when my brother came into the business too, it was just another dynamic of, okay, so now my brother and my dad in the business, and what are we going to talk about when we're not at work? But we have a really healthy working relationship, and we're able to put it to sleep if need be. But I think a lucky aspect of all this is that we are all blessed that we all love the business so much that it's not really work talking about it anymore. At first it was when we were learning the business, but now it's what we all love, and it's what we do.
And I'm sure in some of those gatherings, as family is sharing, some of the creative juices must be flowing sometimes, and good ideas will come up. Is that what, like, some of those conversations would feel like for you?
For sure. 100%. And those are some of the most fun. Like we all love food and we all love eating and going out to dinners, but like we kind of look at it as a work expense. Like we like going to crazy places and trying everything on the menu and saying, okay, what would work at our venue? And we always seem to relate something back. If we're out at a sporting event and we see something unique happen and we say, okay, how can we make that work for a bar mitzvah or a wedding, right? Or if we're watching TV and for instance, one thing that I remember, we were all watching I think it was the Oscars one year, and they parachuted something from the ceiling, and then a week later we're like, how can we parachute desserts into the ballroom, right? So it's how we look at everything always relates back to work.
What is the structure like at the Crystal Plaza? In order for you guys to accomplish everything that you have to accomplish and have events run smoothly, I'm assuming that you will have a very clear chain of communication, a very clear structure. What is it like?
So my dad is still here every single day. Alan Janoff, he's here every day, and he's still the big boss, 100%. He runs the operations. He's still in control, but there's been a natural, and he's been trying to influence it where people look at me, my brother, as the boss, so they're able to respect us, and we're able to make decisions. So he gives us the green light that if we think is something appropriate, go for it, and we have the opportunity to make decisions, right or wrong. Right? He tells stories all the time about how my grandfather and his father did really well with him growing up was he let him make mistakes, and let him learn from those mistakes. And my dad is very good at his job and often puts us in positions that we don't make mistakes, which is fortunate, of course, but it also is one of those things that he tells a story about all the time and I think he kind of hopes that we'll do that, is make a big decision and be wrong. So that way we don't make that decision again. And even just knowing that story resonates with me, because this business and this industry, there's a lot of room for failure, and there's a lot of room for thinking you're the new hot thing and being a little too trendy and too unique, when really, and it's the reason why we've been in business for 104 years, is because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. With a lot of this business, you want to stay relevant, you want to stay new and trendy, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It always holds true in the hospitality world, in my opinion.
Sure. So tell me a little bit more about that, like perhaps some examples of how being consistent throughout the years has actually been more of a benefit to you, as opposed to trying to reinvent the wheel every time.
For sure. I think the most clear-cut example is just service standards. In our industry, a lot of the new venues and hotels, I think they tend to take a step back on service and think it's about the glitz and the glam, when really the guts of it are the service. The way I describe it to my clients is that if you're having a wedding, you want the guest at table 22 to feel like the bride and groom. So one thing that stayed true to us, that my great grandfather, Max, from 1917, when he started the business, was 2 servers per table. That was a standard back then, because in those days, white glove service was actually everything. we've held true to those service standards because of how important we see it is and the success that it's brought us. We're not willing to say, okay, let's try not doing it to that level and see how it works. We're saying it works and it continues to work. So why change anything? I would say a smaller version of that would be food quality, and food creativity. When people think of weddings, they usually think of a chafing dish with chicken franchise, right? But for us, it's okay. How can we make things hang from the ceiling and be a little bit more unique with presentations? That's something that they've been doing forever, and they've been reinventing the wheel in that sense of what's being presented. But the concept of reinventing and staying trendy with cuisine, I think, is a classic standard.
Yes. So a mixture of being consistent and innovative at the same time.
You're hitting it right on that. Innovative is a great word. Maybe it's not so much trendy, it's innovative, and those are times that we're okay throwing an idea out there and maybe flopping. I'm okay going out there on a limb and it not working if it comes to something like that, but I'm not willing to go out on a limb and reduce staff or cut costs in different areas. And that flopping, I think, would be a major. That would be kind of a gut punch to the generations before me.
Yeah. I know you've undergone some renovations. Can you tell me about that?
It's been really exciting. I mean, I give my brother all the credit for this, that he's kind of been the masterminds behind the renovations. And that's why I get a lot of I do the podcast, I do the interviews because he's behind the scenes grinding on the renovations. But we started this last February, and this was before COVID was really a thing, right? I mean, February, things were still sort of normal. Yeah. And we've been working on this for 3 years, putting blueprints together, trying to figure out how we can work this in while events are happening. A 13,000 square foot addition to our venue and renovations of every space. When COVID hit in March and we had just started digging, by May, we really made a decision to say, let's just stop all operations and go full boat with this construction. Give it every opportunity to be better than we ever could have imagined. And that's what we did. And we took a huge risk. We all knew COVID would end, but in the back of your mind, you're saying things are really bad. And there's a lot of venues and a lot of restaurants in the hospitality world is suffering really hard. Do we really want to put up this multi-million-dollar renovation? And we said, let's go. And it was not that I had low expectations. I had very high expectations, and they exceeded it 10 times. It is really absolute. Every time I walk in, I'm impressed with what we did. We added a new indoor ceremony location called the Atrium, which also can be used for dinners or cocktail parties. We built a new room called the Penthouse, which turns out to be one of the largest bridal suites in New Jersey, with a steam shower and a whole hair and makeup salon and custom features. Wow. We redid our whole ballroom. We added a room called the Vault, which is still under construction. It'll be done this summer, which is almost like a man cave for the guys to get ready. It has a golf simulator. It's ventilated for cigars. It has a barber shop. So we went full boat on this renovation, and it really, every time we have I do all the sales and I see clients, but it's really exciting to see people be like, wow, I've never seen anything like this. And being around for as long as we have, it was probably time for us to do something. Yeah. Being in this area and doing a lot of multi-generational events for different clients, it was definitely time, and seeing their reactions makes it so worth it.
So who came up with, or how do you guys come up with all this? Like the things that you mentioned about the man cave, the golf, the cigar, like where does all the imagination come from? How does that work?
It's the fun of it. It's really just us sitting around, and it would be really cool. On a wedding day, the guys are usually pretty bored. Maybe they'll want to hit some golf balls. Oh, well, we have this little nook that it could fit, and it's just, that's where you just get creative, and that is definitely the fun of it, is taking an idea that's so out there. Like, you know what? Like, a lot of people want to have an outdoor ceremony, but when it rains, you can't have an outdoor ceremony. So maybe we should put a glass roof on their ceremony room. And that's what we did. We put a glass roof on it. So it was our way of just being really outside the box, taking a lot of examples of other venues and saying, let's not do what they did. They're beautiful and they do very great jobs, a lot of these spaces, but let's be so different that it makes people want to come see us. And I think we did that.
Yeah, it's definitely a way to distinguish yourself from the rest in a very positive way. So you being in the sales aspect, What is that like? Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, so I see clients, pretty much all day. I deal with their events as they're booked and through the event, actually. So, my promise to them is not only will I meet you the day of your first tour, but I'll be with you the day of the wedding. So a lot of my clients tend to trust me in that sense, where they'll start to take my recommendations for bands and photographers, and it's really a full cycle process with me and my clients. And I take it very personally and hold to the heart, where I say, okay, this client's trusting me with their wedding. I want to give them everything I got. And not only that, this wedding literally has my name on it. This is a Crystal Plaza event that relates directly back to Max Janoff and the Janoff family. So it's more than just a sale at that point. It's me talking about what we do best and really getting to know the client and what works best for them.
When a client comes, do you find that usually they have a pretty good idea of what they want, or do you find that sometimes it's kind of like it's a white canvas and they're kind of like, tell me what you offer and I'll choose?
Yeah, I would say 95% of the times it's a education process. It's us educating the client and teaching them what they should be asking other venues, and what they should want for their own wedding. Most people come in with a Disney representation of a wedding. Oh, it needs to be on a Saturday night and I need to be in a castle and there needs to be horses that bring me in. And then there's also a group of clients who are like, I don't even want a wedding, but my parents are making me have it. Right. So it's funny to see all the different first conversations and how they always lead to the same point in my, where, I'll say for Crystal Plaza clients, they always lead to the same point, which is, okay, I either want a wedding that's over the top or I want a wedding that I don't really care about, but I want a perfect event and I want my guests to be happy and I want great food. So when it comes to that, that's why a lot of people come to us, is because we can execute in any level, but more than that, we're 104 years can almost guarantee you that you're going to have great food, great service. Your guests will leave happy, and we're going to treat you fairly, which is hard to find in this industry. I think is a fair and honest approach.
What you just said is kind of leading into what was going to be my next question, and is, what do you see are some of the misconceptions of people who are looking to have an event, whether it is a wedding or other type of event? And you kind of mentioned that for some of them, they visualize a fairy tale, right? Disney type of thing. What would you say are some other misconceptions that people have, whether good or bad?
I would say that most clients come in with unrealistic budgets. A lot of the times they come in thinking they can get the world for a price that really doesn't even get them through the door. So it's really an education process, and it doesn't mean they don't have it. It just means that they were uneducated to come in. And, there's also the misconception that every venue is the same. I went to the venue down the street and they're offering me a price that's $150 less a person. What's different? Okay, well, where do we start, right? They offer 3 events at a time, and they have, you're offering a buffet, and I'm offering a 4-course meal. So it's hard. The wedding industry, I wish there was a way that the wedding industry could offer everything the same, right? But it's kind of like if you were to go to the best steakhouse in Manhattan and then you were going to go to Applebee's, and you went to Applebee's, or you went to the steakhouse and said, well, Applebee's is offering a steak for $20, right? And people forget that. It's the same thing with a car, right? There's a Ferrari and a Honda. Well, the Honda costs this. People forget that weddings are the same concept, where it's the quality of beef that you're serving, it's the amount of staff, it's the expertise that's involved. So it's not just a venue that you're having your wedding. It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, a lot more that goes into it. And just out of curiosity, so besides wedding, what are some of the other leading events or type of events that you usually get?
Yeah, great question. So we do a lot of bar and bat mitzvahs. Actually, that's a big clientele of ours, to do very lavish bar and bat mitzvahs. We do a lot of corporate galas and fundraisers. We love doing charity events. We're trying to get ourselves involved in a lot of charity events. Recently, a lot of people have been calling about like rehearsal dinners and more smaller scale dinners, which we're not really that accommodating to, because we do require the whole mansion to be reserved. But we do also have a whole offsite catering division. So we do catering at people's homes. We go to other venues and do catering. So we have a lot of smaller operations involved in the venue. Like for instance, our offsite catering, people love us because we only take one offsite catering job a day. Whereas a lot of offsite catering companies might do 20 or 30 a day. We say we guarantee an executive chef there. So we're the key adjective we try to give ourselves is boutique in everything we do. Small scale boutique, but on a grandiose scale. Boutique, smaller events, but on a grander scale.
So you being around for 104 years, I'm sure you've had, grandparents who marry there, and then their children marry there, and their grandchildren probably marry there, and so you are known because of how long you've been around. But I'm curious to know, what are other client attractions that you use? In which other ways do you uh, attract clients, or let the potential clients know about your services?
Yeah, I would say that recently, through our marketing company, we've started doing a lot with Google retargeting, Google AdWords. In the wedding industry, there's websites like The Knot and Wedding Wire, which we do a lot of advertising with. It's something we fight with a lot because, not for nothing, we hold ourselves to a pretty high standard, and we have a pretty high price point for our events. So we argue a lot that maybe we don't need to be as exposed because the clientele we're looking for would find us anyway. And it's an interesting argument we have all the time internally, because we don't really know the answer, but the way that we've been doing it's been working really successfully for us. And in that, we do still want every client to at least reach out to us, because we offer packages for $20,000 and we offer packages for $100,000. So it depends on the client's flexibility, and we're just interested in having the conversation with the client, which is why we don't really have an ego. We're willing to have a conversation with anyone, and if they're flexible, we'll be flexible.
Yeah, and you're right on. There's through your reputation, your clientele is almost pre-screened, so that before they come to you, they're knowledgeable about you, and they know the quality of service they're gonna get. Oftentimes using whether it is the Facebook pixel or it is Google ads, it's a very broad audience, and it's quite tricky to get the caliber of client that would be perhaps better suited by your services, right?
Right. Exactly.
But I'm glad that you have as part of your sales process, that you've incorporated an educational component where people get to actually or get a better idea, more realistic idea of what it is like to have put an event together, put a wedding together. So that's really good. What would you say are some of the challenges in your industry, or that you face, or could be a challenge at a personal level, given that you are in that industry?
I would say the challenges in general are really just the day to day, right? It's composing a venue with all the staff and prepping food, and it's all the little nuances that aren't really necessarily challenges. But one challenge that we're dealing with, the hospitality world is dealing with right now, is staffing. And I know we're not the only ones that are dealing with it, but it's really tough out there, because with all the the stimulus checks and everything, it's genuinely very difficult to find hourly wage employees, behind the scenes dishwashers, chefs, even waiters. It's a real struggle that I'm not sure the general public is really seeing. That it's genuinely very difficult to staff, and we're working with staffing agencies to get people in here. We're offering incentives to start working, but it is one of the repercussions of COVID that us and we've been talking with a lot of the venues are dealing with, to get back up and running.
Yeah, and certainly this has also a consequence in pricing as well, because that has to be reflected as you're putting together event budgets. So we kind of discussed what you do for client attractions, and um, I would like to know what is it that you do for talent attraction. You mentioned looking for staffing agencies, and what are other ways in which you've received employees in the past?
So we, in the past, it's been very easy. People want to work for us. They learn the business inside and out. We give them opportunity to grow within our business. We reach out to local high schools and colleges, and that's how we try to get the people through the door. Right now, though, what we're dealing with is a clientele of people that just, it's hard to get anyone to work at this point. So we're offering, if a staff member is able to get a friend to come in and they continue to work, we'll give them both bonuses. And it's really at a point that's not desperation, but it's also, and I say it hesitantly, it's almost a benefit, because the people that are working are people that I can imagine we want to work for us for a very long time. Loyal, hardworking people. And I will say that the few staff members that we've been hiring the past few days and the past few weeks, through these many different sources, are people that I could see being with us for a very long time. And there's a sense of appreciativeness that I say is relevant, because they're coming in at a time where a lot of their friends are sitting at home and they're showing that they want to work, and I respect that, and I can see us rewarding them in the future for that.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned some qualities such as loyalty, and I believe that when you hire based on core values and the good qualities of the individual, the skill is something that you can teach, you can train them, right? But you can't, particularly in the hospitality field, you can't teach an unpleasant person to be pleasant. Now, you could teach them to be a server, you could teach them to be a dishwasher, you could teach them any of those things, but some of the core values, they have to be there in order to be the right fit for your industry, I would assume, right?
Absolutely. A smiling face can't be taught, and it's just, yeah, and that's honestly half the business. It's just, you make a mistake, smile and apologize and make it right. And if you do that, it's hard for someone to be upset with you. And that's really, you're hitting around the head. That's really all it is. And the people that are able to take the next step and be great at their jobs, they'll do that. But a smiling face in the hospitality world is you can't put a dollar value on that.
You definitely can. Max, what are some of the goals that you guys have set for yourselves for the coming year or the coming few years?
We have goals that are very high. I hate to use the word potentially unattainable, but we set our goals very high. I personally would love to see us in an opportunity to potentially open another space. We talk about this very frequently internally, is how exciting that could be, especially after this construction, and how much fun that was, and not fun, but how exciting it was to build something, and the client's reactions that, we have goals that range in many different categories, but it always stays true to hospitality. What we're best at is, there's a lot of venues and a lot of in our industry, companies that try to spread themselves, not thin, but they'll do a venue that could do some of the lower end events, and then they'll have a super high end venue so they can do everything in between. We would want to stay true to who we are, and part of that just comes with the goal of just operating as we were 2 years ago, which was at a very high standard, great staff, great food, executing events left and right without a hitch. And right now it's getting the ball back rolling. It's getting a great staff in place so we can get to that point. But our goals right now are very high. And this year is more about, let's get Crystal Plaza back on the level that it was, which will happen very quickly. In fact, I'm ecstatic how the past week went. It was such an improvement from the week before even. But it actually, just not to diverge too much, but my father was a guest at a wedding here recently. And I sat him at a table, or he sat at a table, and I put a waiter there, didn't tell him who that person was. And I gave my dad, I said, grade us. And at the end of it, he came up to me with a lot of notes, and he asked me, what would you grade? Because I was there running the event. I said, I'd probably give us a 7.2. He said, I gave you a 9.5. And I said, well, that's good. because we have a lot of room to improve, but from a client's perspective, it's still excellent. So we hold ourselves to a high standard, and that's why our goals are so high.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Very exciting plans. And I love that it's almost like undercover boss.
Exactly. Yeah.
And be able to rate your own service.
Yeah.
Max, I can sense the passion that you have for your business, for the industry. I think it's great that 4 generations and still very strong, still very consistent, extremely relevant and innovative. I am so happy that you were able to accept this invitation and join me today. For people that want to get in touch with you, what is the best way to get in contact in order to book their event?
100%. I'm not, any way you want to reach me. And you can call us right at our direct line. You could email us info@crystalplaza.com. You could DM us on Instagram at Crystal Plaza. A lot of our clients have been doing that recently. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, follow us on TikTok. We're all over the place. So you reach out, you said you tell us you found me on this podcast, and we'll take good care of you.
Awesome. Max, I'm going to make sure to link all the information. This is going to be publishing our YouTube channel, on Facebook. The video version and the audio version is going to be in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. And we'll put some highlights out on our Instagram page as well. So,
amazing.
Max, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate your time. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to being at one of your events.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. Me.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, go to NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. That's NewJerseyBusinessPodcast.com. We can't wait to hear from you and your business. You can also visit our website to learn about sponsorship opportunities and how to qualify for a complimentary gift. Thanks again for listening to the New Jersey Business Podcast.